Welcome to my backyard. My name is Suzanne Clark, and today I would like to share with you my favorite recipe to make grilled pizzas. We are going to start with a ultra buttery garlic crust, and we're going to learn about some tips and techniques to make a successful pizza every single time. So let's go ahead, let's get grilling. To begin our pizza, we need to start with the star of the show, and we are going to make that delicious garlic butter pizza crust. In my stand mixer, I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Now what I need to do is add a teaspoon and a half of salt. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of challenge butter, and this has been melted. I also need to add some yeast. I'm going to add some active yeast, a whole package. Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing those ingredients just a little bit, get them going, and then I'm going to add a cup of water. I'm going to add that kind of slow. Now, I live in Arizona and it's really dry here, so I might have to add a little bit more water than other people, but all you want to do is for this whole mixture to start forming a nice little ball. We're going to let it knead right here in this mixer for 4 to 5 minutes. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can go ahead and mix this yourself and knead it by hand, no problem. But if you do have a mixer, go ahead and use it. It's going to save you a lot of trouble. So now my dough is all formed and it made such a nice little ball, and see how it just comes together and it's so easy to knead. It's not sticky, it's just really nice. Now I want to take this dough and I'm going to put it into a bowl that's been coated with some cooking spray. Then I'm going to wrap it with some saran wrap. Then I just need to let the yeast do its thing. I'm going to put it on the countertop for 45 minutes to start rising. I can go ahead and use it right away, or if I want to develop more flavor in that crust, I can go ahead and leave it in my refrigerator. This is a great plan, especially if you're going to have a pizza party, because the crust is going to be done ahead of time. Now, here is my trick for a successful pizza on the grill every single time, and that is to start with some parchment paper. Now, I went ahead and divided my dough into 2 pieces. And I'm just going to take my hands and I'm just going to kind of pat it out into a little circle to begin with. I'm going to place that in the middle of my parchment paper. Now I'm going to take a second piece and I'm going to place that on top. I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to roll out a circle. Now, by using this parchment paper, it's not sticking, it's not snapping back like a lot of pizza crusts are doing. And I'm going to have a nice circle. Now, how thin? Well, that's up to you. I like to have my pizzas rolled out to about 1/4 of an inch. That's what my family likes. If you like a little thicker, you can always do it thicker. You want it thinner, you can do that too. But I think this is a great way to get the kids involved and get them out there helping you. I think when kids make food with you, they appreciate it more, and you can introduce them to more tastes, different things that maybe they wouldn't try in the past. This is also a good way to bring your guests in if you have a pizza party. So once I have that dough rolled out, I need to do one thing, and you'll see why this is important in a minute once we get to the grill. But we want to make sure that we loosen up this parchment paper. Okay, so I'm going to do that on both sides of the pizza crust. Okay, now let's go ahead and go on to the next step. Now let's go ahead and add another layer of flavor to our pizza crust. I'm going to make a garlic butter that I'm going to be using throughout the recipe. I have in this bowl 1 stick of melted challenge butter. I'm going to use the salted today, but if you would like to use the unsalted, that's just fine too. Challenge products are all made with high quality ingredients, no matter what variety you pick. The only difference between a salted stick of butter and an unsalted is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just enough to bring out that buttery flavor and add a touch of salt. So that's why I like to use it today. I think it works good in this recipe. Now I have 4 cloves of crushed garlic. I'm just going to add that. And I have a garden that I have lots of basil in it. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of diced fresh basil. I'm just going to stir that together and use that throughout the recipe. Now it's time to work on our grilled pizza sauce. Earlier, when I was preheating my grill, I went ahead and cooked a couple skewers of vegetables for you. I have on this skewer some red bell peppers and some sweet onions. I also have a skewer of some Italian mushrooms as well that I'm going to use for a topping. All I have to do is dice these up and we will be on our way to making our sauce. Okay, I think I have these vegetables all diced up. They just need to be roughly diced just to start that mixing process. Now I'm going to use a hand immersion blender today, but you could also use a blender or a food processor. I just like to use this when I can. I'm going to take these vegetables that I diced up. I'm going to add them into this container. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some of that garlic butter that I made earlier. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons. And that's going to give it a lot of flavor. It's going to give it all that buttery goodness, and it's also going to have that garlic and that fresh herb in it. Now I'm going to add a little bit of some balsamic vinegar. This is a tablespoon, and that's going to bring out that tomato flavor. I'm also going to add some sun-dried tomatoes. Now I really like using sun-dried tomatoes for a recipe like this because the sun-dried tomatoes have so much flavor. Now it just needs to be lightly seasoned with a little bit of salt and a dash of pepper. Then we're going to mix this up with the immersion blender and our sauce will be complete. Now let's go ahead and assemble all of our ingredients because they need to be at arm's reach once we get to that grill to make that pizza. So on this tray, I have 2 cups of fresh peppery arugula. I have some shredded Italian blend cheese. I have some Italian sausage that I pre-cooked. I have some shaved Parmesan cheese. I'm going to add that garlic butter I made earlier. I'm also going to add that delicious grilled pizza sauce. I sliced those mushrooms I grilled ahead of time. And now I just need to add my pizza crust to this tray. So I have that ready. You also want to have all of your utensils you need for the grill. You're going to need a basting brush and a large spatula. So let's head on over to the grill. I have been preheating it to 450 degrees. I think it's time to make our pizza. Now it's time to grill our pizzas. We no longer need that top layer of parchment paper on the crust. We can go ahead and take that off and set that aside. But we want to leave that bottom piece on that parchment paper because that's going to help us transfer the crust right onto the grill with no problem at all. So are you ready? Here we go. Now, wasn't that easy? I'm going to tell you that is the trick to making a delicious crust every single time. Now what I want to do is to close this. I'm going to create like an oven effect right now, and I want to keep on grilling this until I see some char marks on the bottom and the crust starts getting nice and bubbly. Now this is exactly what we're looking for. The crust is nice and bubbly, and I can see some char marks on the bottom, so it's time to turn this over. I'm just turning this over right here on the grill. And now we're going to add some more flavor. We're going to add some of our challenge butter garlic here. Just going to brush this on top. Now let's go ahead and add our pizza sauce. You know, it's really worth making your own sauce, especially when you have that grill on. This sauce adds so much flavor to this pizza. It really makes this special. You can add as much sauce or as little as you would like. Next, I'm going to add some of that Italian sausage. Just going to sprinkle that on. Okay. Now I'm going to add those sliced mushrooms that we grilled earlier. Now, what pizza is not complete without cheese? We have to have lots of cheese. At least my family likes that. I'm going to use this Italian blend, but if there's another cheese that you prefer, you can always add that. The nice thing about pizzas is they're totally customizable, and it's great when we have a party or we have different people liking different things in our family. We can please everybody with this recipe. So now I'm just going to go ahead and take my pizza, and I want to move it over to the cooler part of the grill. I want this cheese to melt, but the crust is done cooking. So I'm just going to move it over here, and I'm going to close the lid. Now, if I had a smaller grill that did not have the dual burners, all I have to do is just turn off that heat and close the lid, and we would be good to go. Now we're just going to wait for that cheese to melt. Okay, now our cheese on our pizza is nice and melty. I'm going to go ahead and transfer this pizza to a cutting board, and I'm going to finish up with our toppings. I'm going to add a nice sprinkle of that fresh arugula for that nice peppery taste and a little bit of freshness. I'm also going to add some shaved Parmesan cheese. And there we go. We have a beautiful pizza. All I have to do now is to cut it and serve. As you see, grilling pizzas is so much fun, and it's so easy. As long as you have lots of challenge butter on hand, you have a good recipe, and you know the right tips and techniques to use. So I hope you turn your grill into a pizza oven and make these delicious pizzas with your friends and family.